Hello and welcome to You and I for the Kenai. We're here with Renee and Ashlea at the LeeShore Cener, sitting alongside some You and I for the Kenai peeps, Aaron and Kobe again. And we're here to talk about a few things to continue with long-term supports that the LeeShore Cener offers. I believe some of the first part we'll discuss the transitional living. Renee or Ashlea, if you guys could kind of tell us a little bit about transitional living. You know, I saw that there's some that are communal and some that are like one part that's a communal living setup, one part that's an independent living setup, kind of what's offered in the transitional living and how one might get access to those services and resources.
Certainly. So the Transitional Living Center is in two components, like you said. We have what is essentially a modified duplex, which can house 12 people on average. So it's been split into two portions. There's 2 kitchens, 2 living rooms, 2 sets of living area. And it is designed for women and children who don't have the same kind of safety concerns that those in emergency shelter would have and are looking to transition into more long-term stable housing. So that's the goal.
This is a communal setup, right? It sounds like
yes. So
duplex.
It is communal living. Which
so you said women and their children.
Mm-hmm.
So is there kind of like a basic? So like mom and like a couple kids, mom and a few kids. Is there an age limit on kids? What's
typically?
I mean,
18 or
okay. So children, legal children,
legal children.
Basic. Okay.
If for whatever reason a mother and adult daughter need to come in, then we probably wouldn't put them in the family room. We would probably assign them a different.
Probably both to the emergency living or something.
Well, no, because they don't have necessarily security issues.
Okay.
So the way it's broken down is there are 6 bedrooms, 3 on each side. 1 bedroom on each side is slightly larger. Those are the family rooms. Those are the ones for moms with kids. Okay. Then the other 2 rooms on each side have beds for 2 people. So 2 people per each of the other rooms, and then the family rooms for the families. So it is a easy process if someone is in need of housing and looking to get on into TLC. You can call up and do the intake process over the phone. There is typically a wait list, so I always encourage people to call right away and to get on that wait list, and then they just check in every so often to see how it's going. Single spaces open up a lot sooner than families, because there's only 2 rooms versus 4 of the others.
Okay.
Attached on the same piece of property in a different building is what we call the Independent Living Center, and that is an apartment complex, and it has 3 one-bedroom apartments. So if you come into TLC, you may not have anything. You may have no source of income, you don't have a job, you may be trying to finish school, whatever it is that your goals are. Once you've kind of gotten your foot in the door and maybe you have some kind of income and you want to start building up a renter's history, that's when you will become eligible to possibly move into one of the apartment complexes, if you so desire. And then it's a very minimal fee. 30% is the HUD guideline. And
of your income?
Of your income,
okay.
Whatever that happens to be.
$10 or $10,000.
Yeah, if you're making $100, a week at Safeway, then
$30.
Then it's $30.
Yeah.
And then they can build up a renter's history. So then when we go forth to apply for somewhere else, we can say yes, and they've been very consistent and, and be able to provide that reference to them. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Last year, we had a calendar year, 2017, because we don't quite have the data just yet for 2018.
Sure.
5,875 bed nights for 31 residents, 21 women, and 10 children. They can stay up to 2 years, so it's not nearly the highest numbers like we get here in the emergency shelter where they stay a lot shorter time period.
Right.
But yeah, we are definitely trying to encourage them and give them the skills to get a place and be able to keep it and be sustainable and successful. Mm-hmm. So,
and even once I think it's really cool that they have 2 years to kind of get themselves, get a foundation under them. But it's really cool that they continue that support about 6 months out. So even after they leave Transitional Living Center, they still have the support. They can still come to groups. They still have kind of all of the same programs and services that they had while they were in transitional living center, because not, as you can see, it's independent living center is limited. There's only a certain amount of units, so
three, right? Three 1-bedroom apartments.
So we can't always get our ladies coming out of transitional living into independent living.
Sure.
So, but it's nice that they still have that ongoing support.
Can you be in transitional for 2 years as well, or what is the time on that?
Up to 24 months.
Okay, in both.
Yeah.
Okay, not just independent, but in
in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, between the two.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
Whether and is it mostly families that are going to get the preference to go to the independent living over like an individual? Or
I don't
that
believe
varies too?
I think that would vary as well. I mean, it is really designed for
really
women and their children.
Right.
But generally there are children involved, and it actually kind of turns into a 3-step phase, because a lot of times gals who have been here in the emergency shelter because of the risk factor, and we get that reduced, they transition over to transitional living center, and then possibly into independent living. So what I think is really cool about that is they get supportive services for a long period of time. Yeah.
So when you say they can have these services, up to 6 months in general, following being in transitional living, what are some of those services?
So they do groups, healthy relationship groups, parenting skill groups. Cool. They are a plethora of resources as well. So if they're struggling to find something that they're needing, they can always go back to Tea House and work with an advocate to identify where they can get that help at. It's about skill building, because the more skills we have, the more confidence we have that we can get things done or do the right thing. And so, right down to budgeting, learning to shop, making meals, scheduling your day, when you're a mom and you've got a few kids and you got to get ready. So, kind of teaching you those life skills, because we can get overwhelmed just by that. Sometimes when we've already been in trauma.
Yeah. And I think what's really cool is, for lack of a better term, I guess, is that it's almost a one-stop shop for services. You go and you can get at the LeeShore Cener, you can get such a wide variety of skills and resources to learn how to kind of, as you said, enter the community and be sustainable. I took a health psychology class a couple of years ago, and we had to write a kind of a mock research idea, and what I was for community stuff, and I was like, gosh, what am I going to write about? And I had no idea. And then I was just I was doing supervised visitation for the child welfare system for OCS, and I was like, the parents that I see I see them, I think, more than most people, a few days a week, and the parents that are having the most success in my kind of what I'm seeing are the ones that are in treatment. But it wasn't because they were getting clean. I was watching. I mean, was the major deal. But I was watching other parents get clean too, but not be in treatment. I mean, you can kind of tell. I mean, sometimes you can't, sometimes you can. But I watched these two different parents getting clean, and the one that was in treatment, they were learning more than just being clean. They were learning how to shop, how to cook, how to do, or just. Not necessarily those specifics, but they were learning such a wide variety of life skills. And I was like, what if we had a program that taught all these skills, but you didn't necessarily have to pay $10,000+ in a treatment center, or necessarily even be, because that's very time and resource demanding, But so anyway, kind of a tangent. It's just cool to be able to see all these different wide variety of resources being offered, because they all ultimately, when it comes, I think, to functioning in society, really do matter. You can't just be clean but not know how to have a job and pay rent, and all these other things. But you also, they kind of all go hand in hand.
And many times they fall because that's the easier thing to do. It becomes way too overwhelming, and so we have to learn to manage that stress to keep us from relapse. Mm-hmm. So I think. So
you probably teach healthy relationships and stress management, and I think those groups are probably a tool for stress management, in themselves, So it seems like it all starts to overlap into creating what can be successful individuals and families.
Well, and I think, too, self-care is really important a lot of times, and I think everyone at the table can say we don't always think of ourselves. I think it's really important to take care of ourselves, to have some goals that we can look forward to, and that's, what advocates do with people is help them set some, short-term, some long-term goals that they can can meet. We need to be looking to something. And I think that's just looking into the future. And we know that, domestic violence, sexual assault is one of the leading causes for homelessness for our children and our women.
So with the Transitional Living Center, do you guys have more issues with having too many people already into the what is it?
Independent living?
Yeah. So is it more of a space issue or is it development issue? Like, people aren't ready for that sort of thing, so you have open slots? Space. Okay, so that is a huge issue.
Yes. Generally in this community, we do not have enough beds for all the people who need them across the board.
And I think spans Alaska.
There's typically a wait list.
Probably the U.S.
That's why I always encourage people to call right away if they think that they might be in a situation where they may end up homeless in the future, because it can be a process.
Oh man, especially with winters how it is now. I mean, if you're out there, it's cold.
In that last snap. Yeah. I mean, you walk outside and we have Homeless Connect coming up, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world? I mean, I can't be out here even 5 minutes. I'm so cold.
And another service that's kind of in the long-term support is child care assistance. Yeah. And that, I believe, is a major need.
Well, child care is an intricate part of success in a family. Yeah. It really is. Because our kids need to be in a safe place with safe people in order for us to feel good about going to work and focusing on what we're doing there instead of worrying about perhaps where our children are. Child care assistance, it's really a subsidy-driven program, so based on a family's size and gross countable income, they're assigned this monthly, what they call a copay. And so, based on that, they can pay $100 a month, they can pay up to $500 a month based on their income. And for years and years with that program, it was based on a percentage of their income that they were having them pay towards their child care. So based on what your child care bill was, you were paying kind of these odd amounts. So when they switched to this kind of co-pay subsidy level, I thought that was great for families because we're trying to budget. I'm getting this much money a month, and so now I know I'm going to pay $150 a month for my child care, and I can budget for that. Child care assistance, families that are working, if they're self-employed, going to school. For years, they covered a small amount of time for a parent to go look for gainful employment. And just in the last 2 years, they've eliminated that from the program. So if you're not working, you're not eligible. We're going to help you go look for work, which is disappointing with the level of unemployment that we have going on, that families need to look for work. But this particular office, LeeShore Cener, it's a grant through the Department of Health and Social Services. And for years, that program was run by about 13 grantees statewide. And in the last 6 years, they regionalized. So they took 13 programs and made them 5. So what happened is the region that LeeShore serves is from Kodiak to Nome. Wow. And everything in between. And so they're charged with the registration of child care providers, working very closely with licensing. I wanted to make another point. Sorry.
Was that like a result of cut funding or just, trying to get people equally yoked for as far as, the burden of...
I think it was probably financially driven at the state level, maybe even at the federal level. And then what we noticed with the child care assistance program is that more focus started going towards resource and referral, so towards our teachers that are out there in the field in early childhood development and helping families learn about identifying quality child care. So we saw a shift in the way the funding was actually being shipped out of the state. But it's a fabulous program. Oh, yeah. And I think, LeeShore's done a great job in serving such a large region.
Definitely.
And then knowing that, it isn't a service that's specific to our victims. Although we're so glad, and when I worked for that particular program, we got to work with them on the other end of everything. Now they're starting to work or they're going back to school. And so that was kind of where we fit into the scheme of things over at Child Care Assistance. But we serve the entire community with child care assistance. So you'll notice that it's not housed here because we serve the entire population.
Wow.
I think it's really great that between the two services, you get to see a possibility for a lot of overlap there. I'm thinking of a situation where maybe a victim comes in and doesn't have a job, so they don't quite qualify for child care assistance yet. But as they work through the programs, they get a job while they're in Tea House, and then they're getting ready to go to independent living. Then when they're getting out, they still don't have to worry about, where their kids are going. Because now they can qualify for child care assistance because they've gotten a job since they've been in here. And they've been learning these life skills so that when they get out, they're really fully prepared to take this whole thing on, which is being a parent in general. It's just such an overwhelming task.
Well, and put it in the context of the children as well, because they're getting good quality, consistent care. A lot of times children that have been in these domestic violence situations live in kind of trauma all the time. Yeah. And so to get into a child care facility where they can actually be children and they feel supported by that adult that's caring for them. And so it can start significantly changing a child and the way they're feeling. So I think overall it's just really critical for the community to understand that child care providers contribute to the overall health of your community. If you want, families are healthier when they're working right and self-sustaining, and child care providers are the ones that help that happen for families. So I don't know if you can tell, but they're one of my most favorite people in the community.
Yeah. How do people get some of these resources? Like, how would a family go about getting this child care assistance? Do they contact the LeeShore Cener? What does that look like?
Yeah, there's multiple ways. There's toll-free numbers, so you can call from anywhere in the state and talk to child care assistants. They'll fax you, send you, they'll take pictures on a cell phone and text you an application. They are on our website. We use the same state application. It's across the state, so they can even go to the state application. We keep applications here. We keep applications over at Tea House so that families here know that that's available. And the cool thing about child care assistance is it's not all time consuming. So you don't even have to go to the office. You can fax in your application, read it carefully, make sure you've provided all the supporting documents that you're going to need. They're going to call you on the phone, schedule an interview. They're going to want to interview you via phone unless you'd like to come in. Now, someone in Kodiak or Nome is not going to be able to come into the office, so it's not a requirement that you sit down one-on-one. So it's a telephone interview that can take 30 to 45 minutes tops, and then you roll out.
Wow. So I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly what just wrap my mind around it. So is LeeShore assisting like with the financial end of things for people to get childcare from like other childcare providers? LeeShore itself isn't running like a childcare program, right?
No,
it's financial, like you said, subsidizing
program,
some of that.
Right.
Okay. Just kind of
administering
totally
the grant.
Yeah. Well, that's really that seems.
And we want to make it very accessible and very easy. So certainly if people are out in our community and having any difficulties, we want to know.
Yeah.
Because it's key that they be able to get the information in there and then get the child care coverage. And you're talking about, they finally go to work. Mm-hmm. Well, if they'll get that application in there, the ladies over at that office will get you rolled out so that you can have your child into care when you start working.
Yeah.
If things play out correctly.
Yeah. Like you said, it's such like an integral part to like a successfully functioning, like happy family, so to speak. I know when I was a couple semesters, this woman I went to school with, we were like in the middle of a fall semester and we were talking about spring, and she goes, well, I don't know. And she's like 4.0 student, super good student, gonna like go to med school or something. And she was like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go like next semester. My childcare application is like getting questioned or something like that. It was just, she was having issues with her childcare application and some of that assistance that went along with that, and whether and having childcare versus not having childcare would be the difference between going to school full time and pursuing a very good degree or not going to school. So it's just so important.
Well, and it is a state subsidy program, so there are requirements that you have to meet and forms that you have to provide, and that sometimes can be the biggest struggle. I do know with that office here in Kenai that they're going to help you the best they can, and I know that we've been known at times to go to the state and say, these aren't available. Is this going to meet that need? And sometimes it will and sometimes it won't. Right. So certainly we want the community to know if you're struggling with any piece of that to please circle back and talk to staff and see if there's some other way around it.
You guys definitely seem to be willing to kind of go out of your way for people to try to get them help and assistance, and it's really cool to see that you're willing to kind of hunt down some of these resources to help people out.
And so you mentioned that child care assistance has an office in Kenai?
Yeah, we do. It's located at 601 Frontage Road. It's the Seaman Building. It's a building that's kind of a historical mark in Kenai. It's upstairs in Suite 204.
And people can just walk in and kind of get help from there?
Absolutely, and they do house applications in different forms in the hallway. So if you were on your way to work, the building will be open, but the office door may not be, so you can pick those forms up and fax them in. Okay. Their local number is 283-4707.
And is there a website that people can look into the details of the Child Care Assistance Program more?
Yeah, they can visit the LeeShore Cener's website, and there is a under our services is Child Care Assistance. Okay. And they house their applications and their forms there as well, and gives a little more information about the requirements for the program.
Okay. So between the website, the Seaman Building, the office in the Seaman Building, you can probably figure out kind of pretty quickly kind of what you need to do to get into some of those resources.
And if you have any questions, just give them a call and they will make sure you're on the right track. One of the other cool things, I don't think we've talked about this, is THREAD, which is our Alaska Resource and Referral Agency for Families and Child Care Providers, has a worker housed in that office with them. So it's very helpful to child care providers in our community. She provides a lot of training, and there's funding for them to go to training. THREAD provides that. And then families can go in there for kind of a referral, kind of show what their needs are. I work nights, or I work weekends, or, and I need childcare during these times, and they can help them do a search that's going to meet their needs.
Okay. So as far as long-term supports, today we discussed transitional living, the communal and the independent. We discussed child care assistance, between the office at the Seaman Building as well as LeeShore websites. There's a link there. Let's kind of close out some of the long-term supports here that the LeeShore offers. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and tell us all about that. I'm sure we'll be chatting again.
Thank you.
Thank you.